The kids I've talked to who have been, well, kids, anybody under 30 is a kid, you know, to me. But they were coming through and they were homeless already, and I would talk to them, and one of them had been to community college 2 years. He was homeless.
Wow.
But he was heading to New Orleans. He wasn't in a hurry. He said, I've been enjoying it here lately. He said, my mom and dad, one of them in Daytona, and one lived in New Orleans, dad and mom. And he said, you know, they're poor somewhat. And he said, I've got to find something. He said, I'm going to go back to New Orleans and get the same job I think I had. But he said, you know, I've run out of money. I've run out of time and energy. And I said, well, how many people are like you? And he said, oh, gosh, we see hundreds every day. If you hitchhike and keep going, you run into hundreds. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, we're in Jackson County. And he said, well, out there behind Lowe's, and the word is out that that's where you can go live in a tent. And he says it's terrible.
Yeah. You know, one of the things that broke my heart, it just broke my heart, is the fact that we know through all the research that is being done, either through the National Alliance of Homeless to End Homelessness or the Homeless Coalition here in Northwest, is that they provide you with all the statistics. I found out through that as of November of 2009, there were 55,599 homeless in Florida. Out of those, 7,794 are veterans. And so this past weekend, the president of our program, Joy Gilbert, and I had the pleasure of meeting 2 veterans. One of them discharged with honorable paperwork, DC-14, and it's mind-blowing. These people are just displaced. They're just hopeless. They're broken in spirit. It had nothing to do with drugs and alcohol. They're just out there.
Yep.
And I went to pick him up. I went to the I-corridor, I-10, and they're picking up their tents and their bags, and I'm putting them in my car, and I took him for lunch and spent time with them. I wanted them to know that it's going to be all right. I wanted to bring him hope. While talking to him, he looked at me and he says, so it was you I took those 5 bullets when I was serving. And it just broke my heart. Yeah. Because he's not the only one. There are so many men and women that have come. They're now dealing with post-traumatic syndrome and many other issues. The hopelessness is what my heart is. Yes, we will provide housing, working with the HUD and USDA, medical things, you know, medications and programs and so on, food stamps and Medicaid and all these other things. But to me, the only way that we're going to conquer this is by bringing their self-esteem back to normal level. Yep. By empowering them, equipping them, and training them so that they can have the sense of, I still matter, I'm important, and people care, and people love me, and together we will make a difference. And for them, it would be, you know what, it's been rough for the last couple of years, but soon I'll have our own place to live, I'll have a job, and I can become a member of society once again and feel good about myself while doing so.
And you're going to have a regular TV show to keep us up going on where we are.
Yes.
Maybe you'll bring in some pictures or even some testimonials from real life. People would be fine.
Yeah.
As we've been talking about this today, I watch a lot of late night TV, and I watch the news and sports most of the time, but sometimes other things. And I was surprised that the 3 or 4 people that they had on at one time on a talk show that had been homeless at one time, they're all rich now. And they said because people helped them. Mm-hmm. One lady said she lived off of food stamps for almost a year and a half. And if I told that name on TV, they'd say, you're kidding me. No, I'm not kidding. But that's what she did, and she's very successful. So she's one of those that contributes big time to the national group that you see. There's a lot of big name people that are poor like me, or middle class like me, that we do what we can, but it's not on our mind all the time. I think with the shelter local here, I mean, we have about, I'll tell one more story. I get up and run in the morning, so I'm down, I pass the police station, and I see this kid, it's cold weather, he had on a tank top and shorts and tennis shoes, and I said to myself, gosh, it's got to be cold. What is he doing? Well, I rode around the block, went on and ran my 3 miles, came back to my car, and as I got closer to my car, I saw him. And so he was standing, he came up to me, and he was about my size or smaller, younger kid. And I said, oh, what's happening? He said, where can I get some food? And I said, you want me to buy you breakfast? I'll be glad to. He said, well, I wanted to more than that, but I'll take the, he said, I spent the night at the truck stop, and I had my bag with my clothes and stuff in it underneath the truck. They wouldn't let me sleep in the truck, but I could sleep under it. So the next morning, I heard the truck crank up and pulled off. My stuff was gone. So he said, so I walked from the truck stop. And I believed him. I questioned it, but I believed him. And I said, let me go buy you some breakfast. So we went to Hardee's and had a hamburger, clean cut, really nice looking kid.
Mm-hmm.
And so we get back, and he said, well, you got anything I can do to earn some money? I'm going to California. And he named the program he was getting in when he gets there. He might have studied it, but whatever, but he said, that's where I'm going because they'll let me work. I've talked to him on the phone. They'll let me work in that, so it must be like Christtown, some of those kind of programs. And I said, well, what are you doing on the road? He said, well, my mom moved and married somebody else and moved to Florida, and I was in New Jersey or where we was talking about from, and he said, you know, I thought I was cool and hanging out on the streets, and all of a sudden I realized I had no friends and no money. And he said, I decided to research. So I went to the public library. He said, I made good grades in school. He's about 18 or 19. I researched, called them. They said, come to California. You get here and we'll talk to you. So anyway, we took him home and we picked up limbs, and I let him do some things. Well, my wife comes out when it's time for his time to be over, and she had a backpack. We look after grandchildren, you know.
Yeah.
Packed it full of some food that she had fixed and some canned goods and some non-perishable things so he could go. So I said, I'll take you out in the interstate. He said, well, that's where I want to go. He said, I'm going to hitchhike from there. Hey, I'm going to go. He said, I know that I-10 goes all the way to L.A. It might take me a while to get there, but I can get there. Well, anyway,
I think
she
that
gave him some cash in there, but she hid it in the food items so that he wouldn't find it till he got way on down the road.
way
you know.
down.
Well, anyway, and it does your heart good to help, but that's one. But we see those every day.
Well, we may not be able to solve everybody's problem and place everybody and help every family, but if we can do one at a time, that would be awesome. And you know, all of us have gone through something in our lives at this stage where we all have testimonies. I was homeless. I lived in my car for about 6 months once upon a time, and so I can relate to the fear, the stress, and all these other things. But I believe that I'm really excited about this program because I can see within the faces, the words, and the actions of a lot of the people that I'm working with in the community that the time has come for all of us to join in.
I got you. They're hollering about time back there. See,
And
we're
working for the
so
police
much fun.
department, sheriff department, and anybody that wants to work with us, we're going to work hand in hand to conquer.
Well, I don't think anybody in town is going to argue with you because everybody who lives here has seen it. We're at the intersection of north and south and east and west, and we do have a lot of that. And I know the concern of those people out behind Lowe's. It was in the paper last week about they were either going to help them or run them off, which I didn't like the way they said that, but that's what they were going to have to do because of disease,
Yes.
children not in school, people not having any food.
Yes.
I mean, but anyway, I think it's going to work. So what I want you to do is, if you could do us maybe a monthly or every other month,
Yes.
and I'll run the show many times, give a report for what we can do. Folks, if you're sitting there with that checkbook,
Yes.
you're already concerned about that income tax now because you didn't do enough last year. Not for that reason, but because when you give, it's a
Yes.
lot better gift than when you don't. Do we have a telephone number, guys? Let me see what's on here. Do we have a telephone number?
Yes.
579-9963. Like I said, there's your phone,
Yeah, that's my cell phone.
209-7627. If you're interested in volunteering, or you want to you got a van sitting in there that needs to be running, or it's been sitting there and you've been trying to get rid of and can't sell it, why don't you give it to them? Well, anything that you can do, I don't care what it is, volunteer,